Hey, what's going on, folks? Good morning. It's Larry at Packmasters Dog Training. Going to answer a few more questions for you guys that you guys are sending in. For those of you that you have some questions, just send them in, and I'll do my best to answer the ones that seem to be most popular and on people's minds. Before we get started, let me touch on a couple of things. I have someone working on my YouTube channel right now, organizing my videos so they'll be easier to find for those people who can't. So I guess you'll be putting them in categories, if that makes sense. So my videos will be a lot easier to find for you guys that suggested that, and already it's starting to look a lot better, and I'll pass the information along if you need someone to do that for you. But one other thing, folks, I started doing Skype sessions a while back, and they're going very, very well. I'm still receiving a ton of emails and questions and phone calls every day. Guys, I've done it for several years. I've responded to everyone for several years. I never asked anyone to pay me to speak to me. I don't roll like that, but guys, I can't do it anymore, okay? I'm sorry, but I will not be responding to any more questions via email or over the telephone. Okay, if you go to my website, you'll see the Skype sessions are on there. You'll see what I charge for 1 hour. It's a fraction of the price of what a lot of other people are charging for Skype sessions, okay? But I just don't have the time to respond to everybody anymore, guys, and I can't do it. But the questions are still coming in. If it's that important to you, then you should be able to invest a little bit, okay? I can't do it. All right, so if you need to speak to me and you need to spend some time on a subject, just go on to my website and you can see what I charge for the Skype sessions, and we can set something up. With that being said, if you are a current client or a former client, I don't care if you were a client 12 years ago, if you were someone that already paid for a Skype session, or if you are anyone that has attended my workshops, I will talk to you anytime. I don't charge for that. Again, I don't roll like that. Once I am your dog trainer, I am your dog trainer for life until you no longer want me. So again, if you were a current client or past client from any time, someone who's already paid for a Skype session, or anyone who's come to my workshops, please feel free to call me, email me, whatever, and I'll still do my best. I just have to focus on the people that have been, supporting me and have already paid for some kind of service, okay? So, and also, again, please go ahead and subscribe to my page if you haven't, and like the videos. If you don't, well, then don't do it, I guess, all right? All right, let's get to a few questions. How do I teach the leave it command? I don't know why that's come up lately, but in the past 3 days, I've had a ton of questions about how do I teach the leave it command. I'll include a link in this video of a video I did several years ago with 4 of my dogs, where I was cooking and I put the ribeye steak down in front of all 4 dogs and, just told them to leave it. Leave it is a very, very powerful command, and leave it and out are the 2 first thing I teach my dogs as puppies, plain and simple. Someone asked me if I could make a video on how I teach leave it. No, I really can't, because I don't do anything. I don't set out to go work on leave it, okay? When you have a young dog, or even any dog that's not trained with that, they want to touch and get into everything. So the way I teach it is just with my everyday living with the dog. When a puppy goes to touch something, I'm constantly reinforcing, letting them know, leave it, leave it, leave it. One thing I don't do, I know a lot of people will put food on the ground and teach him to leave it, and then reward him by releasing him to it. They'll do it with a toy. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't do it, okay? So basically, when I teach the leave it command, I'm using things that I literally don't want them to ever touch. And I don't know if it makes a difference, but my dogs know that command very, very well. So if they went off to chase a rabbit and I say leave it, they're going to stop on a dime and come back. It's incredibly strong in my dogs. But the reason I don't do it with food or a toy, I don't want to teach them to leave it and then reward them with the same thing, if for lack of a better word, that I just, told them they weren't allowed to touch, okay? I'm not saying you can't do that. It's just not something I do. So I just teach it throughout the day constantly. If the dog is on a leash and he goes to take something, I just say leave it, and I keep pulling him away. If he's not on a leash and he goes to touch something, I say leave it, and I move towards him and move him away. Okay, there's no There's no big secret to it. It's just consistency, guys. It's just consistency and constantly reinforcing what you don't want him to touch. So that'd be kind of hard to make a video about, okay? But again, I don't use things to teach, leave it, and then reward them with the same object. But that's just me. I'm not saying that's a really bad thing if you're doing that. A lot of people do and have success. It's just not what I do, okay? Next question. We've seen you work with a lot of aggressive dogs, but we never see you correct aggression. Okay, this can go on forever, so I'll keep it short. In a nutshell, no, I don't correct aggression. Not in the way you may think, okay? There's so much talk today in the dog training world about corrections. Just correct it. Just give a harsh correction. Just do this. I don't do that, okay? My goal when I'm working with a dog is to have that dog so in tune with me without ever saying a word or doing anything, you know, just being with me. I have to make that connection with the dog, okay? And I'm not saying, listen, I'm not a purely positive trainer. I have no problem with corrections. But to me, there's a big difference in correcting, you know, a dog from jumping on somebody to correcting a dog with aggression issues. Big difference, okay? With things like jumping on people or digging or barking or counter surfing, you're correcting a behavior, and that's easy. You know, one good correction usually stops that stuff. But I still don't have to do that very often, okay? But that's where that can be very effective. So you're correcting a behavior. The way I look at things, again, guys, this is just me, the way I do things. The way I look at things is when you have a dog that has aggression issues or reactivity issues, it's all the same to me. You're correcting a mindset, in my opinion. That's the way I look at it, okay? So when I work with aggressive dogs, no, I don't. I never correct that behavior up front. I just don't, because I don't want to correct the behavior and then move on. I want to change the mindset. That's why I get the long-lasting results, all right? So a lot of the cases, some of them I've documented, you know, say with the in-home aggression. I'll touch on that again. They're the toughest cases. You can't just knock the shit out of a dog for showing aggression and think that when no one's around, that behavior is going to go away. No, you have to change the mindset of a dog. You have to change what's upstairs. Now, people can disagree with that, but I've been putting stuff out there for a long time. I've worked with a ton of aggressive dogs for several years. That's all I did, because people thought I didn't work with regular dogs. So there was this you know, belief that I only dealt with serious aggression cases, and I hated it because that's all I did get. But that's not the case. You know, I work with all dogs, but I've worked with so many aggressive dogs over the years, and I do multiple things. When I work with any kind of aggression or reactivity or any kind of behavioral problem, really, I don't do one thing. I'm not a method guy. You know, I don't use this method. I don't use protocols. I don't even like that word, because I don't know what I'm going to do until I get my hands on the dog, until I have that leash in my hand, okay? Then I start. But I do a lot of different things, guys, a lot of different things. I want to get as much done without giving commands, without speaking, without doing anything, just being. You got to get in tune with the dog. It sounds silly and everything. I'm not good at putting things into words, even though I say a lot of words. But it's a feeling that you get when you work with these dogs, and there's other people out there that do it. They understand what I'm saying right now, okay? But I've said it before, basic obedience doesn't correct serious aggression issues. You know, it's part of it, but there's so much more to it. So no, I don't correct aggression. Now, if I turn a dog around and completely rehab that dog and he's doing great, and he's not only avoiding being aggressive, but he's trusted with dogs and people and there's no issues, if he showed a sign of anything I don't like, then you can correct that, okay? The training's there, everything's been done, the work's been put in, then you can correct it like any other behavior. You understand what I'm saying? But up front, no, you're never going to see me. Now, there's going to be people say, well, I saw you stop a dog with a dominant dog collar when, you know, he was trying. Don't play that bullshit with me. You know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about corrections, okay? I use the least amount of conflict and the least amount of force when I'm training a dog, always. That's especially in the beginning, guys. And there's going to be many people that don't like that answer, but you can't dispute what I've been doing for a long time. I put enough of it out there, okay? So we'll get off of that. We can go on about that subject forever. Again, that's just the way I do things. That doesn't mean if someone else does it a different way, it's wrong. I'm just telling you what I do, okay? Okay. Walking nicely on a loose leash. You said you don't teach it. Again, no, I don't teach it. I don't have to. All right. I know people love prong collars. First thing they do is put a prong collar on the dog and get the dog to walk nicely. Again, not a problem. If that's the way you do things, that's fine. But I want a dog to want to be next to me. I don't want it to come from a tool. I want it to come from me. Okay, so everything I do, I don't want to rely on a tool. Does that make sense? I don't know if it does. But I want the behavior to come from me. So that's why normally I won't take the dog for a walk until we have a few days of training where that foundation is there. Because then when we do go for a walk, the dog's right next to me, always. And I've shown you that over and over and over. Now, sometimes a dog will get excited and start moving ahead of me. That's normal. Or moving off to the side. But at that point, I could just say, hey, come here, don't do that. You know, I let them know. A little bit of leash pressure, bringing them back and tell them, no, I don't like that. And they stay with me. That's it. It's that simple. So ask yourself, if you're a trainer, am I getting through to this dog? Is this dog responding to me, or is he responding to a tool? There's a big difference, guys. Dog training tools are great, but I prefer adding tools on the back end. When the training is there, the response from the dog is for you. The connection is there. The relationship is there. The dog understands what's going on. Then when you add the tools, guess what? The tools do exactly what they're supposed to do without any conflict. It makes it super, super easy. Man, I swear to you guys who start putting tools on dogs and working dogs and correcting right from the start, give it a shot. See what happens, you know, because you're going to see a really big difference in what you're getting out of a dog if you put the tools on the back end. All right, next question. What kind of food do I prefer? There's so much information out there on this also too. And in my opinion, you know, feeding a dog a good raw diet with a lot of variety, there's nothing better. You know, I don't feed only raw. I did for some time, you know, I haven't been able to keep up with it and stick with it, and I get lazy, I'm going to admit. So I feed a combination of the best kibble I can find for my dogs. Right now, my dogs are on a Kana, which is made right down the road from me in Kentucky. They use a lot of local ingredients. It's still kibble, guys, okay? So it's not the best thing for your dogs. Your dog isn't meant to eat kibble. So what I normally do is I'll feed a raw meal in the morning. Like today, Luca ate, 12 ounces of bone-in chicken breast. So I'll usually feed a raw meal in the morning and then kibble in the evening. Luca doesn't do well on raw with his evening meal. He just doesn't digest it well for some reason, and he's always been like that. But if you're going to feed a kibble, feed the best possible kibble you can find. Now, you could buy the best kibble on the planet. Doesn't mean it'll agree with your dog. So you have to find what works for your dog, but you want to give him the best quality possible. But even if you're not going to be a raw feeder, guys, you should really start introducing some raw to your dog. It's so important. Just for the extra, the benefits of what raw food provides, and even especially for the teeth, guys. I stopped feeding any, all raw for a while. I wasn't giving any raw. I couldn't believe how bad my dog's teeth got. It was disgusting. And that right there causes a lot of health issues. So you got to keep their mouth clean. They got to keep their teeth clean. You look at a dog who's been on nothing but raw all its life, and, they're 12 years old and their teeth are beautifully white and clean. You don't get that with kibble. A dog is not meant to eat kibble. That's all there is to it. That was introduced not even that long ago. So if you don't want to feed all raw, I understand. I completely understand. Not everyone's going to go that route, but at least try to start introducing some raw, some meat, some bone, because the dogs need it. They really benefit, okay? Next question. Can I stop unwanted behaviors with the e-collar? Well, of course, okay? If you've read my book, which a lot of you had, I don't teach anything with the e-collar, and I don't use corrections for some time with the e-collar up front, okay? So I spend a lot of time teaching the language of the e-collar, because the first time I do have to implement a correction with the e-collar, I want the dog to know exactly what it is. I don't want there to be any confusion. But the funny thing is, guys, when you teach the e-collar properly, once the dog truly understands it, then you can use it for everything. And if you do have to correct the dog, even at a high level, there's not going to be any negative blowback from it. I promise you. I promise you, I can guarantee it. But the problem is people get there way too quick, and they're not teaching the language of the e-collar. I'll give you an example. I tell my clients this all the time. Imagine if you're a waiter in a restaurant. Some dude comes in, sits down, and he starts speaking a foreign language. Let's say he starts speaking French to you. You don't know how to respond, so he punches you right in the freaking face. It's the same thing we're doing with these dogs. We're telling them things to do that they don't understand. They don't speak our language. And, you know, we think they understand a lot more than they do. Well, they don't. And then you're lighting the dog up with a sensation that they have no clue what it is. And many people do that. They put the e-collar on the dog day one and they start correcting bad behavior. That's bullshit. It's ridiculous. That's not dog training. You know, that's just you being an asshole. That's all it is. Don't be an asshole. Teach the freaking dog. So can you correct unwanted behaviors with the e-collar? Yes, absolutely. But you got to teach the dog properly first. And then what you're going to see is that by time the training gets going and you're doing well and you're teaching it properly, when you teach the e-collar properly, you very rarely have to use it. Believe me when I tell you. Believe me when I tell you. Okay? And I break that down in my book really, really well, you know. And it's simple, guys. It's so easy. But you're not getting the benefit for that tool if you're just slapping it on and you start forcing the dog to do things. It's not dog training, people. It's not dog training, okay? So we'll stop there. Good questions again. If you want to hear more questions, just keep sending them to me. Send me an email or private message on Facebook. You know, my website, packmasters.com, without the C in pack. It's in the link here in the description. I'll include the description of the leave it command if I remember by the time I upload this, okay? And if you guys have any questions, just give me a shout out. All right, guys? Thank you.